in their schedule practical times blocked out where they're growing and developing. Like I drove 5 hours back and forth for my appointments back in the day for, dude, a decade. And so that gave me 5 hours just to listen to top sales performers, mindset, psychology of sale. Success can start running way ahead of your personal growth. And that's usually where you get into a head-on collision, bro. Like, yeah. And I've just seen that, like, it's so important to like have good personal growth regimen.
What is the number one mistake you see people make, or a few mistakes you see people make within their first year?
They want to know more before they do more. I think that's probably the biggest thing.
What up? All right, here's my man Paul. How we doing, Paul?
Doing great, man. Good to be here with you, bro.
Paul, I got to tell you, I haven't told you this before, but watching your trainings back in the day, first of all, for those that don't know, you've been in the insurance industry for 18 years.
18 years, man.
Almost 2 decades.
Yep.
So you've seen a lot. You've seen a lot change. But man, when your Monday morning wake up podcast and your trainings you put out, when I was in Chicago, struggling, trying to figure out the insurance industry, hearing your trainings and hearing what you did, I don't think I'd be in the industry if it wasn't for your stuff. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. You know, I was just talking about this earlier, but like that podcast is a product of me having just a heavy dose of good consumption for a long period of time, right? And as I've talked to more agents and more people, Jonah, it's like I feel like most people just have a low good consumption intake. Like they don't have like in their schedule practical times blocked out where they're growing and developing. Like for me, I drove 5 hours back and forth for my appointments back in the day for, dude, a decade. And so that gave me 5 hours just to listen to top sales performers, mindset, psychology of sale, all that kind of stuff. And so because I consumed so much of it, it kind of rewired my brain into this higher level thought process of being a top producer. And then all I did was like say, hey, let me kind of give back. You know, this has kind of helped me significantly. That led to the podcast. By the way, just a quick, like, you know, shameless plug. We do have the Pinnacle Monday morning mindset podcast every week. And I believe it's better than the first one. So
tune in.
Make sure you're plugged into that, guys.
Tune in. What time is it posted?
It's 7 a.m. on Mondays.
7 a.m. Mondays.
Pacific, yep.
Let's go. Okay. And you were 19 when you joined the industry?
Yeah.
How old are you now?
38.
38. Okay. So how much were you doing in the height of production in your prior to building?
500,000 was top personal sales. But to give context, that'd have been like 1.5 million nowadays, right?
Yeah.
There is no
having to fly.
Yeah, there's only a couple people doing 500. Even the funny thing, Jonah, is like just to kind of show you the progression of the industry, dude. My first year in the business, I was a number 8 producer in the country with simplified issued sales, and I issue paid 190,000, bro, and that was number 8 in the whole nation.
Wow.
That was back in 2008. Yeah.
The bar has been raised.
Mm-hmm.
How much were you doing agency wide in the peak of your volume?
22 million was the biggest month.
Okay. Yeah, insane. Because for context, we did 30 million last year. You did almost that in a single month as an agency. So my question to you is, you started in the industry at 19, built a massive business. How did your mindset perspective change from just coming in, you know, trying to figure this out? I think you were newly married, you were expecting, you were pumping septic tanks before that, to building this massive business that you've built.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a progression, right? I think the tension is in this business, success can start running way ahead of your personal growth. And that's usually where you get into a head-on collision, bro. Like,
yeah.
And I've just seen that, like, it's so important to like have good personal growth regimens. And so
there's a Chinese proverb, don't get drunk on your own success.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that happens quite a bit. And then you don't know how to steer even, you know, cause I've been drunk and driving before, you know, it's been a long time, but I still didn't forget how to steer. Right. I think when your success is so far ahead of you, you're drunk and driving and you don't know how to steer because you don't have the wisdom and clarity to navigate where you're at because it's so far ahead of you.
Stay in between the lines. Between the lines.
Like, God, just get me home. I ain't going to do it again. That was my 19-year-old So, but I think that I knew that from just good leadership, people saying, "Bro, you got to get a personal growth plan, or you're gonna self sabotage. It's only a matter of time." I remember reading a book that talked about these lottery winners, how most lottery winners, I think by the first or second year, they go bankrupt, like 98% of them. And you start thinking like, how do you make 50, 60, 80 million and it's all gone in 48 months? And it's because they didn't develop themselves into the type of person with the right identity to be able to manage and handle that. And so I started investing in John Maxwell events. Like every year I had $30,000. Like I'm talking year two, I had $30,000 that was going back into events, coaching, seminars, workshops, mastermind classes, that was developing myself because I realized that I can't give what I don't have. And if I want to be a person of value that gives value, I got to become more valuable. And so
Mm.
that's just essential for anybody that's watching this. Like, what is your personal growth plan? And if you're like, I don't know, well, dude, you're about to crash into something. Just give it a little bit more time,
You're never going to out earn your level of personal development.
dude. 100%.
How many hours a week were you dedicating towards that?
I mean, quite a bit, dude. And I still do that today. Like I have, so back in the day, it was a lot more because I had a lot more windshield time. So I'd always say like my car was my rolling university.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
what I called it. And so when I got in, I called it a rolling university. I treated it like a rolling university, and that's where I developed. So, man, I was in my car all the time, dude. Whether I was driving to appointments or back in the day, driving to opportunity meetings that I had to host twice a week, and those were in all kinds of different locations. If I was flying, back then it wasn't even like you had Wi-Fi in an airplane, bro. I was reading books, and so it was constant as far as personal growth. All the time that I had, that was windshield time. It was growing, reading books. I had a book a month was my goal. Every month I wanted to read a book. And then nowadays, like it's changed into is like all my gym time, I'm listening to an audio. It could be a podcast. I've got 3 different podcasts I listen to each week that just kind of feed me and feed me well. I think that's
Mm.
important. There's a
Yeah.
lot of stuff out there with personal growth and development, but every person feeds you well. Like you might not connect with me, and you might connect with Jonah, or you might connect with Yaya. Like the goal is to find who feeds you well, and then plug into that, right? Because it's like if your body's low on potassium, a banana is going to do more for you than it is for me. Your
Mhm.
body's going to feel it, and when you hear it, you're like, man, that message was just so good. Well, then start following that person and start letting them be the one that helps develop you.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. Well, I've tried listening to audiobooks in the gym, and it's not the same workout. It's not the same. Do
Yeah.
you still get the same pump when you listen to
So
audiobooks?
funny you say that, bro. Like I was just I've been trying to listen to some audiobooks, and I was like, dude, audiobooks are just not it's not a gym thing.
Yeah.
Podcast is not the same as music, but podcast I can still get a good workout in. An audiobook, bro. It's just like I want to sit down and kind of take a nap.
What are
So
your
it's a little
favorite
different.
podcasts?
So I listen to Craig Rochelle's leadership podcast every week.
Okay.
I feel like he's got a great podcast. Ed Milet's podcast, usually I listen to that every week. And then sometimes, man, like, and I think this is important too, is save the ones where you're like, dude, that just hit right. Like there's certain ones
Yeah.
where you're just like, man, I just needed that. I try to go back and listen to one that I feel that way when I hear it, dude, at least like 20 times throughout the year.
Mm.
Like I'll put it in a file and I'll listen to it. And that just kind of helps almost like change my language because through repetition of message, you adjust thoughts. And so like if I can hear the same thing over and over and over again, like I guess I kind of go against the grain with even the whole thought of like, dude, read a book a week. It's like, dude, I
Yep.
I, I
I'm the
think you
same way.
should study. Like I'd
Yes.
rather take one book and study it for 4 months than read
Yes.
a whole new book every week. Like, so I haven't read thousands of books, but man, I've studied books because I want to actually get what it's giving, not just say, "Hey, I'm like a CEO. I read a book a week." It's like, congratulations, Tonto. Are you retaining it?
You're
Are you
not.
doing something with it?
You retain less than 5%. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
the same way. I'm very selective with the books I read, but I'll read it 2, 3,
yeah,
sometimes 4 times.
yeah.
Are you one podcast I've been listening to a lot? Do you listen to Chris Williams, Modern Wisdom?
No, is it good?
Yeah, you should look. I love
Okay.
his stuff. But let me ask you this, Paul. So you've been coaching, mentoring salespeople for many years now. What is the number one mistake you see people make, or a few mistakes you see people make within their first year?
I think the first year, what they do is like they want to know more before they do more. I think
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest thing. Like and that shows up in the beginning and then it'll show back up throughout it, right? And so like in the beginning, what does that look like? It looks like, I need to find out more about the product before I make my first phone calls, right? Like that's how that shows up. It's like I need to know more before I do more. It could be like investing more in leads. Well, I need to, I kind of need to see how it goes with a smaller batch of investment before I invest the right amount.
Why is that stupid?
It's stupid because like you don't really know until you do, right? So like knowing without doing is not knowing. And so in the execution is where the knowing is actually produced. So you sit back and you're hypothesizing over all these different situations. And once you actually take the action, you realize that all the things that you were trying to figure out and you thought were important were not. But you only know that when you do,
I'm and the truth is you decrease your chances of success by doing that.
Yeah.
Because your biggest debt coming into this, regardless of how much financial debt you're in, is your ignorance debt. And I
Yeah.
understood that. So my goal was to pay down my ignorance debt as quickly as possible. I knew that I did with time and money.
It's good.
And if I was only investing my time, I wasn't investing my money. Do you think I would have figured this out? No, of course not. And so you should be the most lenient with your lead investment when you're first starting, because that's the worst you're ever going to be.
Yeah.
Like you and me, we could get away with a $200 a week lead spend because we've put in the reps, we've developed the skill set over years and years and years and years of repetition.
Yep.
But a brand new agent, they haven't done that.
More shots on goal.
Yeah. So that what helped me, and I can say for a fact, I would not be in the industry if I wouldn't have done this, but what helped me tremendously is I maintained a consistent lead spend in the beginning. Even though I was negative and I wasn't getting the positive, I was like, I need to develop my skill set. Once I have that, I'm going to get better. And the truth is, you don't get better by hammering the phones and making $300 a day. You don't. You get better by presenting and talking to people. So you need to be getting in front of as many people as possible. And the truth is, we always talk about 25%, 20% of the people you call are laydowns. So even if you suck, as long as you're following the script and you're filling out the financial inventory, you're just going to come across the laydowns and you're just going to get those. So you should be the most lenient with your lead investment when you first start. And then if you really want to be a scarcity, like wait until your skill set, like you're a phenomenal killer, and then you can tailor it. But in the beginning, it's you gotta invest. You gotta invest with time and money and pay down that ignorance debt.
Dude, great example that kind of spotlights what you're saying, Jonah, because it's vital. And one example is what we're talking about here, but it shows up with recruiting. It shows up with investing. It shows up with bringing on your first admin. Like this shows its face throughout your career. And every time it does, if you're not aware of it, it'll screw you up. But I went to this Maxwell Exchange. It was back in, I think, 2020 or 2018, I think. It was in North Carolina. It was at Ricky Hendricks Motorsports in Charlotte. So it was a very intimate setting with Maxwell. Hendricks was just speaking about this exact concept, and then they give you like a practical example to kind of see it play out. So they gave us all like these 5 cars, and they broke us up into teams of like 6 or 7, and we were the pit crew. So we had to take off a tire, and then we had to go and we had to put a tire back on, like swap it out, right? And so he gave us like 30 minutes to talk about who was going to do what. And so we sat down, talked about it, thought about it, had this plan, this strategy, like 30 minutes, bro. We go do this change a tire, right? They start the clock. Dude, everybody's terrible. It's like 30 seconds to change a tire. You're supposed to be like under like 20 or 18 or something like that. And then they only give us like 3 minutes to talk about what to tweak and adjust, and then go do it again. So in that 3 minutes, once we've actually done the experience and we've actually seen it, we all go do it again, and we all drop by like 30% in our time. And his concept was, you guys could have sat there for 4.5 hours talking about it. You would have not got any closer to perfection. It was only with the reflection on the doing that led you to make the adjustments, because now you knew, and it was proof. Like it was such a great example because everybody's time dropped 30%, which is 3 minutes of reflecting once they actually did the action. But there was so much time on the front end that was to no avail. We could have spent 2 minutes or 30, made no difference.
Have you heard the story about the school teacher in the pottery class?
Huh.
So there's a school teacher, and he divided the class into half. So half the class, he said, you have all semester to make the perfect pot. You just need one pot. It's got to be perfect. And the other half of the class, he said, hey, you're not going to be scored based on the quality of the pots. You just need to make as many as you
Yeah, yeah.
possibly
I
can.
have heard this. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is good.
And the people that the half the class where they make the perfect pot, they spent all semester planning the pot, and by the time their pot found the pot sucked. But the people that just got started and they just started making pots, by the end of the semester, they had perfected their craft and they had perfected the
Yeah,
pots. So you can't procrastinate. You just I always tell guys. I was just telling a guy this morning. I was like, less thinking, more doing,
yeah,
because you don't get better by thinking about it or strategizing about it or overthink. You get better by repetition and
yeah.
reps and reps and reps and reps.
Dude, Jay Shetty, he said this quote, man, I feel like it's so good when it comes to like when you find yourself stuck. He's like,
Yeah.
either you're thinking too much and doing too little, or doing too much and thinking too little.
Mm,
And that's kind of the rub, right? Like
yeah.
usually when you're like, man, why do I feel stuck? It's like you might be thinking too much and you just need to do more. Or sometimes when you feel stuck, it's because you're just doing, doing, doing. You're not looking actually working on your business because you don't pause and just reflect and say, what's working, what's not working, what should I be thinking about that I'm not thinking about. Like it takes a good balance between the two, but oftentimes in the beginning, you're always stuck because you're thinking too much and doing too little.
Well, and the ratio evolves, right? Because I always tell guys, hey, your first 6 months, the new ideas department is closed.
Yeah.
You just need to do. There's no thinking to it. Just follow the blueprint and follow the system and execute. But the bigger the business you want to grow and the higher you evolve in your leadership abilities and capabilities and
Yeah, that's
responsibilities,
good.
then you need to take more time to step back, reflect. All right, what's the vision? Where are we going? And so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
smart.
But in the beginning, you just gotta get started, dog.
Yeah, that's smart though, but it does shift. You're right. It starts to change the ratio. I like the way you put that. That's good, dude.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, Paul. You're doing 20 million a month, $250,000 a year as an agency, which doesn't happen by accident. So what were some principles that you developed with your leadership team to have that consistent growth and be doing that much volume?
Yeah, good question, man. I think the art that I learned was the art of empowerment and really send people up to do things in a way where they became more independent, and it was like they were running their own business. So like in the beginning, my first coach was my cousin. He's the one that recruited me, and I kind of learned quite a bit from him on how he did this. So like I was 19 years old, right? And I remember calling his admin, Alora, to ask for like contracting help. It was a little bit different than like everything was paper contract, paper apps, yada yada yada. So I kept calling, and it was not more than like 3 months in, dude, maybe 2 months in. He calls me. He's like, "Hey, dude, like you want to start paying for Alora?" I was like, "No, I don't know." Like he's like, "Well, like you use her all the time," and in my mind, I was thinking like, "Well, dude, you're my upline. Like you make an override." And he's like, "Dude, like you and me are the same. Like if you like Alora, go find yourself an Alora." And he really treated me like that, dude, at an early age, man. Like it wasn't like there was no entitlement. Like it wasn't like, hey, because I make an override, I need to give you this, this, or this. He treated me like I was my own IMO. And I learned quite a bit from that. And so I think in order to go build a massive organization, you have to treat everybody like they're running the same business as you are. They're not downline. Like, it's you're doing the same thing I'm doing. Do I have an override? Sure. I invited you to the opportunity, but you need some staff, go find some staff. You need to grow this thing, grow this thing. And so empowerment I think is what allows you to multiply. And so like I had a lot of people in my organization do that were just killers. Like they just crushed this thing. They had multiple recruiters, multiple staff. They ran it like it was their own IMO because I never kind of got in the way to mess that up. I just kind of like it was like, hey, figure it out. It's even like the new. I had a couple of younger guys that were in the office, and they got these questions. I said, dude, like listen, they sent in a form, they filled it out. Go help them. Like stop it, knock it off. And I think just like early on, treating them like, dude, this is simple. This is a business. Go run your business. And that really kind of helps with expansion because a lot of times we're the lid because we think that we got to, give all these people. Well, if you're giving them stuff, they can't go out there and grow themselves. And so, like, if somebody's using my staff too much, I mean, I'll hit them up like, dude, it looks like you're ready for your own staff. Why? Well, like, dude, because you've called her quite a bit. Like, this is, and I'll have those conversations to empower them, talk about where they're going, and that I care too much about you to continue to help you with these things because I'm truly putting a lid on you if I do. and I care too much about you to let that keep happening. So this is what I'm going to suggest you do. And so just really empowerment, giving them the authority and autonomy to build their business and treating them like they're actually a business owner.
That's good. Since you've partnered with Pinnacle, what's your vision over the next 12 to 24 months?
I mean, I think, I was talking to Joe about this. Like, my expectation is pretty big, dude. Like, as far as what I think he could do, I think in just the life side, it could be 20 million plus a month by the end of the year. With all lines, like 50 million by the end of the year. Um, I do. I just, we spent the last couple days at an event, and not to get all spiritual and preachy, but dude, you could feel the Holy Spirit on that place.
Mm-hmm.
And not to get too spiritual about why I'm here in the first place, but dude, I spent some good time with God, and I made some big decisions where I'm praying and I'm like, God, give me clarity because this is a big one and I don't want to screw it up. And I didn't have the clarity. Like I didn't have the like, okay, I'm certain of this. And I still made the decision because I feel like we're called to go to and from, enter the gate and go out and make our own decisions. And if our heart posture is right, God will still bless it and see it to be the right path. But I was like, man, I want some just good clarity on this one if I could. I knew I was stepping back into the business after I'd been in prayer and God spotlighted a scripture that just spoke where it was unequivalent. Like, this is what he wants me to go back in and step into and do. Like, this was my earthly ministry and to get back into it. But then it was like, where do I go? And that it was one of those where I just felt like complete clarity that this is where it was supposed to be. And then I've seen signs and evidence that really support that fact that it was clarity and it was God and the conviction that I had in doing that. And so I just feel like, he's on it. The leadership, I've never seen it like this as far as an executive team. The groups and leadership like you, Jonah, and the other leaders in the organization. Um, just like, bro, right heart and right head. Like I've had people with the right heart, but they're kind of like cuckoo. Like, dude, like you got the right heart, bro. But you got to get that business acumen going, man. Like you keep messing stuff up, and then you get people with like really smart but the wrong heart. Like, dude, there's a lot of great heart and mind alignment here, and I mean, I've done this long enough to kind of know, like, have a good judge of the leadership, and leadership is everything. Everything rises and falls on leadership.
Amen.
Leadership is going to help point the direction and give me the confidence of where I think it can go. And so, because of those things, man, it's going to be, it'll be significant, man. It's going to make a big, big difference.
Amen. All right. We're out of time. We both got to roll. Rapid fire question for you before we go. What's one book you'd implore everybody to read?
Dude, a book that I think of when you ask that, I mean, there's a lot of them, would be Winning the War in Your Mind by Craig Rochelle.
Yes, that's a good one. That's actually Claudia's favorite book.
Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah, she has a lot of our guys read those books or read that book. What's one thing you wish you did earlier in your career?
Man, I think what I wish I would have done would have been understanding the concept of not saving and more of investing. I grew up with like uh, you save your way like to retirement, and so I remember sitting with an old mentor, and I told him I had 20 grand in my account, like I had done something. I was 19. It was like my first year. He's like he looked at me like I thought he was gonna be proud, you know. He's like, "How many recruiters you got?" Like, how started asking questions about the business, and I was like, "Well, he's like, you can't." He's like, "You can't save your way to success." And like that was the first time I really kind of understood that concept. Like I thought you could, and he started breaking it down. It was like, "Dude, you're gonna save 20 grand a year for how many years? Like how you like, bro? It'll never happen. You got to invest your way." So I wish I would have understood that earlier on. It took me about a year and a half, and I would have had more of that money going back and utilizing it for my business, opposed to just trying to figure out how to save it.
Last question. What's one habit that separates the average from the elite?
Man, I think it would be the habit of a visualization, man. I've just really been on that lately. Like I feel like, it's a superpower that we have. Everything was created and it's got its own little superpower. Like a bee creates beehives and an ant creates colonies, but like we create futures. Like God created us in his image. We were created to create, we were imagined to imagine. And so I think too often people don't step into what God's got before them because they have no vision. And so just really kind of getting a picture in your mind of what you want your life to look like in every area, your fitness, like what do you want to look like fitness wise? Like I think about that stuff. Like I think about like what I want to look. I think about my family. What I want my marriage to look like. What I want my relationship with my kids to look like. What I want my relationship with my maker to look like. What I want my faith to look like. My finances to look like. My franchise to look like. You got to get a vision of it. If you don't, then you're just kind of like moving through the motions by default, hoping that something great gets built. And I just don't think it will.
Amen. Paul, thanks for coming on, brother.
Hey, thank you, bro. I love you, my man.
Let's go kill it.
Just getting started, baby.